Hello, everyone. What I'm about to talk about today has the power to change your mindset for life. It's not about how much money you have or how talented you are. It's all about your attitude. Before we go any further, I want you to do something simple. Take a breath. Think about everything you've survived so far. Now listen carefully. There comes a season in life where you're not just tired in your body, you're tired in your soul. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of trying so hard and still feeling invisible. Tired of giving your best and watching people do less and win more. Tired of pretending you're okay when something inside you is quietly breaking. In those moments, you don't need a miracle. You don't need permission. You don't need to start over from zero. You need a mindset that refuses to be broken. Because attitude is not just how you walk or how you talk. It's how you face your pain. It's how you stand when life knocks you flat. It's how you keep moving forward with fire in your chest and silence on your lips. That's what this video's about. Not theory, real life. The code every survivor, every underdog, every future champion lives by. Attitude is everything. Comment number 1 right now if you're ready to begin the journey of rebuilding yourself. If you read only one message today, let it be this. Your life will not change when the world becomes easier. It will change the moment your attitude becomes stronger. Keep reading, because this is the shift you've been waiting for. There comes a moment in every life when strength is no longer measured by talent, intelligence, or the comfort of perfect conditions. There comes a moment when nothing outside you can explain why you're still standing, or why you're falling apart. And in that moment, everything comes down to one invisible force: attitude. You can walk through darkness, heartbreak, confusion, pressure, and still rise if your attitude refuses to break before you do. Every situation you face, whether earned or unexpected, becomes either your prison or your training ground, depending entirely on the story you tell yourself. Two people can grow up in the same home, face the same storms, carry the same burdens. One becomes hardened and hopeless. The other becomes sharper, deeper, unshakable. And that difference is not luck. It is not intelligence. It is attitude. The internal decision to rise instead of collapse, to learn instead of resent, to grow instead of surrender. Your situation may slow you, bruise you, confuse you, but it cannot define you unless you hand it the authority to do so. Life will not ask if you are ready. It will simply arrive. It will test your softness, your patience, your certainty. And when those tests come, your attitude becomes your reaction, your recovery, and eventually your identity. A strong attitude stands while everything else around it falls. It whispers, "I will rise," even when your voice shakes and your future feels unclear. A strong attitude reminds you that you are not a victim waiting to be rescued. You are a creator capable of rebuilding, capable of rewriting, capable of becoming more powerful than the pain you walk through. The world cannot promise stability, but your attitude can create direction. The world cannot guarantee comfort, but your attitude can guarantee resilience. When nothing makes sense, attitude becomes the compass. When everything feels heavy, attitude becomes the anchor. In the end, your life is not determined by the storms you encounter, but by the strength you bring into those storms. Attitude is not decoration. It is not performance. It is not the mask you wear for others. It is the foundation beneath every step you take and every decision you make. And as long as that foundation is steady, no matter how rough the path becomes, you will always have a way forward. So if you feel lost, start here. If you feel tired, start here. If you feel like everything is falling apart, start here. Strengthen your attitude, and your entire life will begin to shift. Because in the end, the world doesn't decide your direction, your attitude does. And once you understand that attitude is the foundation of your entire direction, you must face the second truth, a truth most people avoid because it forces them to look inward instead of outward. Failure is not what destroys you. A weak attitude is. People grow up terrified of failure, as if failing is the ultimate end, the collapse of hope, the final proof that they are not enough. But failure is almost never the real enemy. It is simply the mirror that reveals the strength or fragility of your mindset. Failure by itself is harmless. It is messy, uncomfortable, embarrassing, yes, but harmless. It cannot break you unless your attitude hands it that permission. Failure is information. Failure is direction. Failure is a teacher whispering, not this way, try again, try differently. Every person who has ever risen, ever built, ever succeeded has walked through more failures than victories. But they survived because their attitude stayed stronger than their mistakes. A weak attitude does the opposite. It takes a single setback and turns it into an identity. It says, see, you always fail. Nothing works for you. You're unlucky. You're behind. You should stop. It closes your ears just when life is trying to teach you. It convinces you that effort is pointless, that patience is overrated, that resilience is only for people who already have advantages. A weak attitude does not just respond to failure, it multiplies it. It expands one moment of pain into months of self-doubt. It transforms one closed door into a lifetime of hesitation. Think about how many people you know who are talented but stuck. Not because they lack skill, but because the moment something goes wrong, they collapse internally. Their emotions explode. Their patience shatters. Their belief disappears. They talk louder but dream smaller. They stop before life even has a chance to reward them. That is what a fragile attitude does. It convinces you to quit long before the world ever defeats you. But here's the truth. A strong attitude can rise after 100 failures, while a weak attitude can fall even when given 100 opportunities. Your attitude becomes the story you tell yourself after every setback, and that story becomes the script that shapes your next action. If the story is, I learned something, you grow. If the story is, this is the end, you shrink. Failure is never final unless your attitude decides it is. And the moment you shift your internal voice from blame to responsibility, from panic to clarity, from surrender to determination, everything in your life begins to change. Because failure cannot destroy a person who refuses to stay down. But a weak attitude can destroy a person even before the world challenges them. So remember this as you move forward. Life isn't testing your talent, it's testing your attitude. And if that attitude is unbreakable, failure becomes nothing more than the fuel that sharpens your rise. And once you realize that failure itself cannot destroy you, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. There is only one power in your life that no loss, no person, no circumstance can ever take away from you: your attitude. Everything else in your world can be shaken. Everything else can collapse without warning. But the strength you build inside, the fire you guard within your own chest, that is yours forever, unless you surrender it. Life can strip you of things you believed were permanent. Jobs disappear. Plans fall apart. Money runs out. Relationships shift. Stability evaporates in a blink. You can wake up one morning confident in your future and go to sleep the same night not knowing what tomorrow might bring. That is how unpredictable life is. That is how fragile the external world can be. But even when everything you leaned on crumbles beneath your feet, one force remains untouched: the attitude you choose to carry through the ruins. People often believe strength comes from the outside, from success, from comfort, from support. But the truth is the opposite. Strength is proven only when those things are taken away. Some of the most powerful people you will ever meet are the ones who have lost everything, yet somehow refuse to collapse. They weren't fearless. They weren't perfect. They simply protected the one thing the world could not steal: their inner character, their inner attitude, their inner refusal to be defeated. Meanwhile, others who have every advantage, money, support, comfort, praise, fall apart the moment life becomes difficult. Not because they are weak people, but because their attitude was never trained to stand alone. They trusted their circumstances more than their mindset. And when circumstances changed, they had nothing steady left to hold on to. Your attitude is the anchor that keeps you grounded when the world shakes. It is the compass that points you forward when the path disappears. It is the shield that protects your peace when everything around you becomes loud and chaotic. When you lose something external, your attitude becomes the bridge to rebuild. When you face uncertainty, your attitude becomes the voice that says, we will figure this out. When you feel alone, your attitude reminds you, I still have myself, and that is enough to begin again. You do not need the world to believe in you. You do not need applause. You do not need permission. You need only your own attitude to remain unshaken. Because once your inner belief becomes stronger than your circumstances, life slowly rearranges itself around that strength. Remember this, the world can take many things from you, but it cannot take the person you decide to become. And that decision, every day, every moment, begins with your attitude. And once you understand that attitude is the one power life can never take from you, you begin to see something even deeper. Your attitude doesn't just shape your inner world, it shapes the world around you. It determines the people you attract, the connections you keep, and the relationships that silently fall away. Because long before you speak, long before you act, long before anyone truly knows you, your attitude introduces you. People believe relationships are built on charm, on talent, on beauty, on perfect timing. But none of that lasts. What remains, what people truly feel, is the energy you carry, the standards you hold, the way you move through life when no one is clapping. A strong attitude becomes a quiet magnet. It draws in people who respect themselves, who value growth, who recognize strength when they see it. A weak attitude does the opposite. It repels, it drains, it pushes away even the people trying to help. Think about it. No one wants to stay close to someone who constantly complains, who blames the world, who plays the victim every time life becomes uncomfortable. That energy consumes rooms. It suffocates conversations. It turns relationships into emotional labor. And eventually people leave, not because they are cruel, but because they are tired. But when your attitude is grounded, disciplined, and calm, people feel safer around you. They trust your presence. They admire your silence. They respect your consistency. Confidence becomes magnetic. Self-respect becomes attractive. Emotional stability becomes rare. And rare things draw attention without trying. You don't need to shout your worth. Your attitude announces it for you. Your standards rise with your attitude. You stop chasing approval. You stop begging for love. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop tolerating disrespect simply to avoid being alone. Because a strong attitude whispers a simple truth. I choose who I allow into my world. I do not accept chaos as a companion. And that whisper becomes your boundary. It becomes your filter. It becomes the reason your circle grows smaller but stronger. People come and go not by accident, but by alignment. You attract what you reflect. If your attitude is clouded with insecurity, you will pull in people who feed it. If your attitude carries quiet strength, you will attract people who rise with you. Your life will not give you the relationships you dream of. It will give you the relationships your standards allow. And here is the part most people never realize. You don't find the right people by searching. You find them by becoming. You become someone with clarity, someone with discipline, someone with peace, someone whose presence feels like direction, not confusion, someone whose attitude makes others want to stay. Because in the end, your relationships are not chosen by chance. They are chosen by your attitude. And the moment you change that attitude, the entire world around you begins to shift. And once you finally understand that your attitude shapes the people around you, the next truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your attitude also shapes the future you are allowed to build. Because success does not begin with talent, money, education, or perfect timing. Success begins with the mindset that carries you through every imperfect moment. Success begins with attitude. Look around the world. It is filled with people who are intelligent but paralyzed, talented but inconsistent, gifted but unfocused. They have potential, but potential alone has never changed a life. Why? Because talent without attitude becomes laziness. Intelligence without attitude becomes overthinking. Ambition without attitude becomes pressure and fear. Skill by itself is not enough. But an ordinary person with relentless attitude becomes unstoppable. And here is what most people never admit. Success is rarely about being the best. It is about being the one who refuses to stop. The world does not reward perfection. It rewards persistence. It rewards resilience. It rewards those who continue to show up long after their motivation has faded and their confidence has cracked. A weak attitude waits. It waits for clarity. It waits for confidence. It waits for the right time, a moment that never actually arrives. A weak attitude whispers excuses that sound like logic. I'm not ready yet. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? And while they wait, life moves on without them. But a strong attitude moves. It moves even when afraid. It moves even when uncertain. It moves even when the path ahead is foggy and the outcome is unclear. A strong attitude says, I will learn on the way, I will evolve in motion, I will build myself through effort, not through waiting. That mindset, bold, patient, disciplined, hungry, is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The truth is simple. You do not rise because you know everything. You rise because your attitude refuses to quit while you learn everything. Success is not a moment. It is not a lucky break. It is the quiet accumulation of choices, day after day, made by someone whose attitude refuses to surrender. When everything goes wrong, talent won't save you. When progress slows, motivation won't save you. When doubt whispers, intelligence won't save you. But your attitude will. It will keep you awake when you're tired, keep you moving when you feel stuck, keep you disciplined when no one is watching. It becomes the engine that carries you through every setback and every silence. Remember this, people with the right attitude can learn any skill, overcome any weakness, and survive any setback. But people with the wrong attitude will lose even the gifts they already have. So as your circle changes, as your standards rise, let your attitude rise with them. Because success does not start the day you become talented. Success starts the day you decide your attitude will no longer allow you to quit. And once you understand that success begins with attitude, not talent, not timing, not perfection, you must face a truth even harder, even deeper, even more defining. Your attitude decides what your pain becomes. Because pain will visit every life. It does not ask for permission. It does not wait for convenience. It arrives when you least expect it, and it stays longer than you want it to. But pain itself is not your enemy. Pain is neutral. It is your attitude that transforms it into power or poison. Some people suffer once, but relive that suffering 1,000 times in their mind. Their attitude keeps reopening the same wound, replaying the same betrayal, repeating the same story of why me, until the pain becomes their identity. They hold on to the memory as if letting go would erase a part of who they are. Their attitude convinces them to stay angry, stay small, stay broken. And slowly, without realizing it, they allow a single chapter of their life to become the whole book. But others, those who rise, those who grow, those who rebuild, they experience the same pain, yet refuse to let it define them. They turn heartbreak into wisdom. They turn disappointment into discipline. They turn rejection into redirection. They turn every wound into a doorway, every setback into a sharpening, every silence into a deeper strength. They did not avoid the fire. They walked through it, but their attitude refused to let the fire destroy them. Instead, it forged them. The difference is never the pain. The difference is always the attitude. The moment you shift from, why did this happen to me, to what is this trying to teach me, your future begins to change. Pain becomes a teacher instead of a trap. It becomes a guide instead of a punishment. And what once felt like the end becomes the beginning of a stronger, clearer, more resilient version of you. A strong attitude does not pretend pain doesn't hurt. It simply refuses to let the hurt become a permanent cage. It says, yes, this broke me, but it will not keep me broken. It says, yes, I'm tired, but I'm still building. It says, yes, I cried, but I did not quit. This is the mindset that separates someone who heals from someone who remains hardened by their past. You may not control when pain arrives, but you always control what it becomes. It can destroy you. It can transform you. It can silence you, or it can awaken you. And the deciding factor is not the pain, it is your attitude toward the pain. So as you chase success, as you refine your attitude, remember this. Your greatest strength will not come from what went right in your life, but from what you survived. Train your attitude not to fear the fire, but to become stronger because of it. And once you understand that a strong attitude can turn pain into power, there is one final truth you must face. Life will test that attitude every single day. Not once. Not only during major storms, but constantly, quietly, in the small moments you barely notice. Because your destiny is not shaped by the big events alone. It is shaped by the thousands of tiny reactions that train your attitude long before life presents its biggest challenges. Most people believe they are only being tested during obvious hardships, heartbreak, failure, loss. But the real training happens in the moments you think don't matter. When someone disrespects you and you choose silence over chaos. When frustration rises and you choose patience instead of anger. When fear whispers and you choose action instead of avoidance. When doubt appears and you choose discipline instead of excuses. These small choices are not small at all. They are the daily workouts that build an unbreakable inner world. A weak attitude is trained the same way, quietly, unintentionally, through negative habits repeated until they become reflex. Complaining trains weakness. Emotional overreaction trains fragility. Excuses train surrender. Comparing trains insecurity. Every time you give in to these reactions, you are rehearsing your own collapse. And when life finally tests you on a larger scale, you won't fail because the test was too hard. You will fail because your attitude was never trained to endure. But people with strong attitudes, they are different. They build their resilience in silence. They strengthen their character in private. They choose growth over comfort when no one is watching. They don't train only for the storm. They train in the rain, in the wind, in the ordinary days when nothing seems dramatic. That is why when life finally brings the storm, they stand. They have already practiced standing. Make no mistake, the world will test you. It will test your patience, your faith, your character, your commitment to your own future. It will test you when you are tired, when you are discouraged, when you feel invisible, when you think you've already been tested enough. But the world does not decide whether you pass or fail. Your attitude does. When rejection appears, your attitude decides if you crumble or rise wiser. When plans collapse, your attitude decides if you freeze or rebuild. When pain returns, your attitude decides if you repeat the wound or rewrite the story. When doubt whispers, your attitude decides if you shrink or step forward anyway. Talent cannot save you here. Luck cannot save you here. Even support cannot save you if your inner voice is trained to give up. But a strong attitude, one built in silence, sharpened by pain, strengthened by persistence, can carry you through anything. So remember this as the final truth. Life will keep testing you, but your attitude will always decide who you become. And if that attitude refuses to break, refuses to surrender, refuses to let pain define your identity, then there is only one destiny waiting for you. One shaped not by circumstance, but by strength.